Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and today we're starting a new Let's Talk Lore series titled The 5 Elites of Wei, where we will cover the lives and careers of the 5 key Wei generals in Zhang Liao, Yue Jin, Yu Jin, Zhang He, and Xu Huang. Now the reason we refer to these 5 generals as the 5 Elites of Wei, or Wu Zi Liang Jiang, in Chinese comes from the fact that they share a chapter in the records of the 3 kingdoms, as you can find them in chapter 17 of the Book of Wei. Compared to the other famous collective nicknames from the 3 Kingdoms period, such as the 12 Tiger Generals of Wu or the 5 Tiger Generals of Shu, the 5 Elites of Wei is a relatively new nickname that only came about in the latter half of the 20th century. Despite being such a latecomer, the achievement of these 5 Wei generals cannot be understated. And to kick our series off, our first few episodes will focus on arguably the greatest Wei general in Zhang Liao. Born in the year 169 in the northern border county of Mayi in the Yemen Commandery, Zhang Liao hails from a historically notable frontiers clan, and we can even see this from his name, as the word Liao means distant or far away. This is farther reinforced later on in his life through the choice of his style name, which is Wen Yuan, where the filler word position uses Wen, meaning civil, as in the opposite of martial, probably to signify that he was educated. The second character, Yuan, follows the typical style name rule of picking a character that shares a meaning with your name character, as Yuan also means far, in a direct callback to his given name Liao. Now, the reason why I said his clan was a notable historical frontiers clan, because a little more than 300 years before Zhang Liao was born, in the year 134 BCE, Zhang Liao's forefather, by the name of Mayi, was the head of a wealthy merchant clan in the border county of Mayi. At the time, the Han Empire had just suffered a series of humiliating defeats against the mighty Xiongnu Empire from the north, and in hopes of putting a permanent end to the constant border raids of the Xiongnu, the Han, under the leadership of Emperor Wu Di, seek to reverse their defensive strategy and launch offensive campaigns against the Xiongnu Empire directly. Knowing this was the strategic goal of the empire, Zhang Liao's forefather, Mayi, approached the Han general Wang Hui with a plot to trick the Xiongnu leadership into a trap. According to Mayi's plot, he would use his merchant status to travel north deep into the Xiongnu court to make contact with the Xiongnu Chanyu, or chieftains. Once there, Mayi would offer to become an undercover agent for the Xiongnu, as he would promise them open access to the heavily defended border county of Mayi. Now, the reason why this was an attractive offer is because Mayi, the home county of Mayi, was well known for its livestock market, as the name Mayi literally means the county of horses. So what Mayi was really offering to the Xiongnu here was the chance to raid one of the most lucrative Han border markets. And to facilitate this raid, Mayi even promised to use his personal guards ahead of time to kill the local garrison commanders and bring their heads to the Xiongnu camp prior to the start of the raid. Tempted by this offer, the Xiongnu Chanyus fell into Mayi's trap, and when General Wang Hui brought Mayi's plot directly to Emperor Wu Di, the Han Emperor ended up sending 5 of his top generals along with 300,000 troops to lay a massive ambush around the county of Mayi, as they hoped to trap and eliminate the main Xiongnu forces in this plot as a preamble to a massive follow-up invasion of the Xiongnu Empire directly. However, this plot ultimately failed when the Xiongnu Chanyu became suspicious at the sight of too many unattended livestock as they approached the county of Mayi. So instead of proceeding directly to Mayi as Mayi had suggested, the Xiongnu instead attacked a nearby fort first, and after capturing the garrison commander alive, the Xiongnu would learn of the massive Han ambush that was waiting for them at Mayi after torturing this captured commander for information. Shocked by the scale of the Han ambush, the Xiongnu quickly retreated back north, as the plot of Mayi would end without achieving its purpose. But in the grand scheme of history, this incident is seen as the turning point in the Han-Xiongnu War, as political marriages for peace between the Han and the Xiongnu ended for good after this event. What would follow would be a series of successful Han attacks deep into the Xiongnu territory, led by legendary generals such as the first flying general Li Guang, Wei Qing, and Huo Qubing. As for Nie Yi and his clan, because of his involvement in this failed plot, the Xiongnu started to target his clan and their trading caravans to the point that the Nie clan was forced to change their surname from Nie to Zhang in order to hide their identities from the Xiongnu, which is why by the time of the Eastern Han Dynasty, Zhang Liao would have the surname of Zhang instead of Nie, and instead of being born into a wealthy merchant clan, Zhang Liao's family now made their living as simple frontier farmers. Now, despite the fact that the Xiongnu Empire had been long defeated, with the majority of the Xiongnu tribes fleeing west towards the Eurasian steppes, the period of the late Eastern Han that Zhang Liao was born into saw a resurgence of nomadic threats as the decline of the Han power gave the various nomadic powers in the north the opening to strengthen and renew their border raids. One such threat was the Xianbei chieftain Tan Shihuai, who formed a massive unified coalition of Xianbei tribes that stretched across most of the Han northern borders. And for the 2 decades from the mid 150s to late 170s, the Xianbei under Tan Shihuai launched constant raids against the Han borders, killing, pillaging, looting, and kidnapping countless Han citizens living in the border counties. And it's under this backdrop of violence that Zhang Liao grew up. In 177, when Zhang Liao was just 9 years old, he witnessed the first organized Han attempt to attack Tan Shihuai's Xianbei Empire. From his home commandery of Yemen, the Han lieutenant of the Xiongnu affairs in Zanmin commanded over 10,000 cavalry riders consisting of mostly local recruits and skilled southern Xiongnu riders, who were vassals to the Han at this point, to attack the Xianbei as part of a 3-front assault organized by the Han imperial court. However, this ambitious assault to protect the northern borders failed in dramatic fashion, as Tan Shihuai's Xianbei forces proved way too much for the Han side, as the casualty after the first encounter reached around 70% for the Han side. And by the time the defeated Han troops retreated back to Yemen, less than 10% of the original army returned home. This no doubt left a huge impression on the young Zhang Liao, who would eventually come of age and immediately volunteer to join the local government as a clerk and as a member of the local garrison. Now, as you might recall, Zhang Liao was born as a regular peasant and probably did not receive too much of an education growing up. And while these 2 factors would have normally precluded you from ever joining the government, on the frontier, this was a non-issue, especially with the high turnover of local government and garrison from death due to the constant Xianbei raids. By 181, the pressure from the north finally eased up a bit, as chieftain Tan Shihuai died of illness at just 45 years old, leaving behind a rather incapable son whose name was He Lian. And under He Lian's leadership, the Xianbei would get into a border dispute with some of the other nomadic tribes farther north, and in the ensuing war, He Lian would get killed by a stray arrow, and with his death, the Xianbei tribes would fracture into much smaller threats for the Han. Yet these smaller threats still launched frequent raids against the Han Empire, and in March of 188, one such raid would end up claiming the life of the Bin province prefect in Zhang Yi. Now, Zhang Yi's death would become a major turning point in Zhang Liao's career, as Zhang Yi's replacement would turn out to be a man by the name of Ding Yuan, who immediately started to recruit notable skilled fighters from local garrisons within the Bin province to join his inner circle as protection. Amongst these skilled fighters would be the likes of Lu Bu, Zhang Liao, and Zhang Yang. Lu Bu would go on to become Ding Yuan's chief secretary, while Zhang Liao and Zhang Yang became attendants. A few months later, in the August of 188, the formation of the 8 captains of the West Palace, or private army for the emperor himself, led to a massive conscription of troops, and in order to please the emperor, prefects from every province sent troops to the capital to join this new force. Ding Yuan would end up sending Zhang Liao and Zhang Yang, along with around 1,000 troops, to the capital to answer this recruitment call. Once at the capital, Zhang Yang, who was slightly higher rank and much older than Zhang Liao, would end up receiving a Sima position in the new West Palace army, while Zhang Liao would be sent north to Hebei to recruit more troops. By the time that Zhang Liao had finished recruiting a few thousand new troops in Hebei and returned with them back to the capital, the West Palace army had changed hands, as following Emperor Liu Hong's sudden death due to illness, the unit commander in Jianshuo was arrested and killed by alliance between the 10 attendants and He Jin, as this army that was originally meant to help the emperor balance military powers away from Grand General He Jin would ultimately end up being absorbed by He Jin's forces not long after Emperor Liu Hong's untimely death. So Zhang Liao became a minor officer within He Jin's army, but shortly after, He Jin would get assassinated by the 10 attendants, and in the chaos that followed in the capital, Dong Zhuo would end up taking control of not only the court, but also He Jin's former troops, which is how Zhang Liao ended up working for Dong Zhuo. As a matter of fact, Zhang Liao ended up working for Dong Zhuo prior to even Lu Bu, as Lu Bu was still serving under Ding Yuan at this time, and only after Lu Bu was convinced to betray and kill Ding Yuan, who was appointed as the captain of the Luoyang City Guards, would Lu Bu end up joining Dong Zhuo's side. Now, given how Lu Bu had been bribed to switch sides, he naturally rose to a prominent position very quickly within Dong Zhuo's army, while Zhang Liao remained just a minor officer. And over the course of the next few years, it was probably due to the connection of Lu Bu and Zhang Liao, who shared a past working in the Bin province under Ding Yuan, that Zhang Liao got the chance to become a subordinate under Lu Bu, as Lu Bu would end up promoting him to the position of captain of the cavalry, or Qi Du Wei, for his personal retinue. And while many modern portrayals of Zhang Liao and Lu Bu might make you feel like Zhang Liao should have been Lu Bu's equal, you have to remember that Zhang Liao was much younger than Lu Bu, as Zhang Liao had just turned 20 when he was first sent to the capital in 188, and given his youth and lack of experience, it was very unlikely for him to even end up earning his captain position had it not been for his personal connection with Lu Bu at the time. And with that, our first episode on Zhang Liao comes to an end. Next time when we return, we'll look at Zhang Liao's career serving under Lu Bu and his eventual transition to becoming Cao Cao's general. Now, hopefully y'all have enjoyed this episode enough to consider subscribing to the channel for more content on Three Kingdoms history, or simply support the channel by leaving a comment below, or just by hitting the like button. And as always, I'll see you all next time. Bye!